Hi, my name is Grant Rodiek, and I am going to teach you how to play Druids. Druids is a two-player abstract strategy game that takes about 10 to 15 minutes to play. I'm going to teach you how to play the game such that you don't need to read the rules if you don't want to. So let's dig in and learn how to play Druids. Before we set up the game, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different pieces. You have a 4-piece board here, which you assemble such that there are 2 temples on opposite sides. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. You have 5 terrain tiles with river, cloud, mountain, and forest. Note that there are 2 clouds. So these are the terrain tiles. Finally, you've got the Druids in 2 different colors. There's the light ones and the stained ones, the darker ones. So basically each player will have 3 of those. Then you need to figure out which of the stones are in play. These are sort of the animal forms that are on stones. So there are 9 different cards. At the start of the game, you shuffle them and choose 4. For your first game, I recommend you play with butterfly, turtle, mouse, and frog. These are more straightforward, simpler, and decisive, and a good starting set. So once you have your 4, you'll just set these off to the side for both players to see. They have information on them that explains how they're used. And then you want to find the matching stone tokens for each of those. So here we have turtle, butterfly, frog, and mouse. So we're going to shuffle, put face down, and sort of mix up these stones. And then you're going to put 1 on each star. Now we need to place the terrain tiles. This starts with the player who's second player, and you determine first or second player just at random. So you may place these terrain tiles on any open space that does not have a symbol and does not have a druid on it. And that's true for the entire game, with one exception in that you may place the forest underneath a druid, but otherwise the symbol still holds true, and you can never place them on the back row at the temples. So starting with the second player, they could place the cloud, and then first player would place the forest, and then another cloud, or however you want, mountain, river. So once we do that, both players then put all 3 of their druids facing the back of the board, however they want, on the back row. They can do it in any way they want, using the temple, not using the temple, just however they want. So now we have our 3 stones, we have our tiles out, we have the board assembled, we've got our 4 cards, usually set aside here for reference, but I'm sitting on a narrow bench, so there's not a lot of space. And then finally there's 1 stone off to the side. So we're now set up and ready to play. The goal of the game is to move with a stone into your opponent's temple using normal movement. So in this case, if I were like this, I moved in, dark would win. Or if I capture all of my opponent's pieces, so here you capture them by moving onto them, pieces can never exist in the same space, you would remove this. If dark in this case removed all of light's pieces, dark would win. So those are the 2 ways you can win: moving into an opponent's temple with one of your stones, or eliminating all of your opponent's pieces. On your turn, beginning with the first player, you can take 1 of 3 actions with one of your druids, and then play alternates back and forth until one player wins. You could do normal movement, stone movement, or you can meditate. Normal movement. You can move 1 space orthogonally. Orthogonally is forward, left, right, back, in the direction you are not currently facing, and then you twist to match that new current facing. So here I can never go forward because that's my current direction, but I can go that direction. So I went in an orthogonal direction and I changed my facing to match that. So that's normal movement. Now if I did normal movement into a stone, I may examine that stone. This is butterfly, and then I put it back face down. I, as a second possible action, can remove and reveal the stone and then do what it says. Butterfly, in this case, as noted on the card, lets you move exactly 2 diagonal spaces. So I can move 2 here, or I can move 2 here. I obviously can't go this way because it would move me off the board. And if my opponent's piece were there, I would capture them, removing them from the board. After I use stone movement, I put the one I just used face down, and I mix the 2 up, and then I have to put it back on a star that does not have a stone. Now, if there's multiple stars available, I choose, and if one of my pieces or an opponent's piece is on there, if I put it on there, they will immediately gain that stone. So you want to be careful and think ahead about how the stones will be put back. So the final thing I could do on my turn is if I have a stone that is not revealed, I may meditate. And to do that, I reveal the stone, so now you get some information. And if I want, I can rotate to any facing. So meditation is effectively, I give you some information in order to pass and not take a turn. So those are their 3 basic movements. I want to cover 2 simple cases really quickly. If I do normal movement onto an opponent's piece that has a stone, I capture them normally, but then I also gain their stone. Now, if I were to capture an opponent's piece that has a stone and I already have one, I leave the stone there and I don't get to look at it. You can never have more than 1 stone and you cannot trade them off. So here, I would just leave it there. That's usually not super common, but it can happen. Let's talk about how terrain affects the board. Mountain is the most simple. It blocks the space. So I cannot move into the mountain. And if I have a form like frog that would let me jump to, I cannot jump through the mountain. So mountain blocks. The river flows. So here, if I move onto the river, I must move 1 additional space in the same facing. So I turn right, then I do the river movement. Now in the case that the river is up against the mountain, in that one case, I can't move onto the mountain, so I would just stay on the river. And that's the same is true at the edge of the board. So if I were to do here, I cannot go off the board, so I would stay there. The clouds are effectively like little teleporters. So if I move onto a cloud, I must teleport to the other cloud. And again, I always maintain my facing. One thing you want to be careful about is your opponent can then move on to capture you, but then they will still teleport. And so if you are on one end of it, I can move here and I will teleport and I will capture you. You can never have 2 druids on the same space. If you move onto an opponent's space, you will capture them, and you cannot move on to a space with your friendly unit. The only way in which you will not teleport is if one of your own units is on the other side, and here I can't because he is on the other end. That is the only case in which I will not teleport. So finally we have the forest. And in the forest, I cannot be captured. The forest hides me, I am safe. So here, he could not capture me because he's in the forest. And as I mentioned in the beginning, when placing a forest, it is the only one that you may place underneath an existing druid. So those are how the terrain tiles work. Now, how do I move the terrain during the game? You see the symbols? This is a river symbol, but it is not a river. This is a mountain symbol, but it is not a mountain. The tiles are them. If I end my turn on a space with that symbol, I must move the associated piece with that symbol. So here I end on a mountain, I must move the mountain. Never on the back row, never on a space with a druid or a symbol. I must move it. And if I were to end here and I activated my druid and then I meditate, that also counts as the activated druid ending it. So there's that case. One thing to note is that if I end on a cloud, I only move one of the 2 clouds, not both of the clouds, just one of the 2 clouds. All in all, Druids is a relatively simple game. You're going to use normal movement to zigzag and collect those powerful stones. You can use the stones to outflank your opponent or catch them unaware, or even use it to carry it into the temple for a victory. And you must think about the tiles and how they're going to move and use those in cooperation with your stones in order to sort of set up the world such that you can maximize your efforts and win. Be very careful about the clouds. They effectively let you teleport around the map, and the river can be used both defensively and offensively, so think about that. If you have any questions, post them below in the comments, email me, however you wish to get a hold of me, and take a look at Druids. Thank you.